Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins, filling in for the day. Chad is back on Monday. First, the good news. Let's get to the good news right out of the gate. The FDA intends to proceed toward authorization of the COVID-19 vaccine. Officials say yesterday there was a panel that recommended the agency grant an emergency use authorization. And today, that panel continued to speak, and the FDA continued to speak about how authorization is coming. The vaccine is coming. Now, granted, this, I guess, can be coupled with what is odd. So Dr. Anthony Fauci is someone that was politicized, and I think a little bit more than he ever intended to be. I do believe that the politics that surrounded Fauci was not necessarily entirely a self-inflicted wound. I don't think that he went out there into the world begging to be a political figure. And yet, as I say that, as I mentioned that concept, Fauci did an interview. He talked about the vaccine, and then he mentioned a lot of how life isn't going to change once we start to get it. And that, to me, is odd. It's tremendously odd, actually, because it seems to be focusing on the wrong thing. I don't know if he needs to get that far out in front of it. Any sort of medical professional you've heard from, talked to, seen on television, they usually say that the vaccine won't be available to everyday Americans for quite some time still. It's just going to start getting used in the most at-risk or most need environments, like for healthcare workers. And yet, in the interview just the other day, Fauci already throwing a lot of cold water on the vaccine situation, which, again, just very much confuses me.
Unless you get the overwhelming majority of the country vaccinated and protected and get that umbrella of what we call herd immunity, there's still a lot of virus out there. So just because you're protected, so-called protected by the vaccine, you need to remember that you could be prevented from getting clinical disease and still have the virus that is in your nasopharynx because you could get infected. We're not sure at this point that the vaccine protects you against getting infected. We know for sure it's very, very good, 95% in protecting you against clinically recognizable disease.
Okay, it sounded like some good news there, Fauci. It said Dr. Fauci, played by Brad Pitt on SNL. It sounded like there was some good news baked into the nasal pharynx mention, which I know they had fun with on, I think, Fox and a couple other places. But let's continue to hear from him, because I think more of this quote is valuable. He starts to talk about how you're going to keep wearing a mask, even if you have a vaccine, even if you take it. If you're one of the select few that gets it quickly, early, or in the next few months, I guess, there's still a large percentage of people that would not be in that same boat. So you'd have to continue to wear a mask because you might get infected, as he just stated a second ago, but that infection wouldn't necessarily harm you as much. It's very confusing and not necessary now. Again, and I get it that medical professionals, they want, we probably all know a doctor who overdoes it in the truth department every so often, and you're like, I didn't need all those side effects for this thing you're telling me to take. But here, go ahead. Continue, Dr. Fauci.
And almost 100% in protecting you for severe disease. But until you have virus that is so low in society, we as a nation need to continue to wear the mask, to keep the physical distance, to avoid crowds.
I think he just ruined the vaccine for a lot of people. Honestly, we all talk about it every so often. Certainly, the president was under fire quite a bit for the way in which he represented the virus to the American people, and I'm not going to get too far into that. But I think there are times when responsibility outweighs the need for all of this information dumping. If people hear that a vaccine is not going to return us to normal everyday life, you're not going to be wearing or you're not going to be able to take the mask off, the stores aren't all going to open if they're still closed in some areas. How many more people are now going to say, you know what, the vaccine doesn't sound as good as I thought, after the great news of the FDA saying that they intend to authorize the use of it and it's moving forward and things are great. Get Fauci on a television somewhere and immediately we have issues. All right, in other news, I know this is valuable to a lot of people. There's quite a bit of debate about this Texas lawsuit. One of the lawsuits brought about by the Trump administration, one of the lawsuits about election fraud. Kayleigh McEnany was on Fox News and talking a little bit more about this. I want to hear from Kayleigh first, and I do want to couch, I guess, this audio with a little. It's interesting to hear her take, and interesting to consider the potential that some of these cases might have validity in ways that maybe we didn't know about before. But in so going that road and letting her speak to you guys, play this audio for everyone, I do want to say that I still don't believe, at least with what's been presented publicly so far, which is not, again, necessarily surprising. If you're going to go through the court system, I don't think you dump all of the best proof out there for the world to see. But people have said that if you're going to do interview after interview and you're part of this team, you probably should give us a little more. The Kraken needs to be released a tad more. But here, let's hear from Kayleigh first about this situation, the Texas one, and how some other states are getting involved.
And you had Alito, Gorsuch, and Thomas joining in an opinion, warning us in advance of the election, if you don't sort this out, there will be chaos in the election. And that's one of the themes, Sean, as we all saw the writing on the wall. As you'll recall, that canvasser, the Board of Canvassers, remember when two refused to certify the election? I went back and was reading through some of the affidavits in this court case, and one of those individuals who wouldn't certify the election was a woman named Monica Palmer, and she writes that all the way back in the primary in August, she saw these irregularities. All four, Democrats and Republicans, joined and said, we've got to investigate what's going on. We see flaws in the system here with mass mail-out voting and the elimination of safeguards. The poll books aren't balanced. And what happened? We all watched this happen in slow motion. And we will stand for the Constitution. It matters, which is what these states are doing by joining Texas.
What's so interesting to me about the way in which these lawsuits may play out, and we may eventually hear I desperately want, I guess I want the Law and Order version, but any version that's actually more respectful than that, where you get to hear from people in a Supreme Court setting, you get a ruling from the highest court in the land on this stuff. But the idea that maybe some things were not done exactly to the degree that they need to be done to be legal, some changing of things, some maybe blasting through the red tape that might exist in the world of government, that's not quite as surprising of an argument as just saying that dead people voted. The initial narrative that you heard that like this fraud happened and this fraud happened and all of it was manufactured and all the voting that came in and everything that we got was just not even people that are alive. That's a harder sell, I think, to people like me and you without proof. I think that if you're not going to provide that proof to the people, when you say it in an interview, you're going to be doubted. That's just how that works. If I told you that ghosts are real and then didn't prove to you that there are any ghosts, you might not believe in them. I actually famously said on a radio station when I don't necessarily believe in ghosts, totally a tangent I don't need to take, that one could punch me in the face and then I'll believe, Doubting Thomas style. But the idea that the process was not followed correctly because so many states were trying so hard and so quickly to get to a point where the mail-in voting and the ballots were available to the American people because of the pandemic, if the process itself was manipulated and some of it potentially illegally, that to me is a much more intriguing thing to figure out. Now, granted, I think a lot of people who don't support the president would say that this is, like getting the worst possible version of a throwing out of some votes. Maybe they are real people. Maybe they did send in a ballot in the mail, but they didn't have the right to do it because their state didn't follow the process correctly. That's not the same as a fake vote coming in. But this is the rub. This is what they were talking about months ago. And this is why I've continued to say, whenever I discuss this topic, that one, just because there's no proof yet doesn't mean that anything did or didn't happen. I will continue to accept the idea that something could break or something could be presented in a courtroom that changes everyone's opinion on a story like this, even though right now, as I said, it's not the opinion I currently hold. I accept the idea that more information could come out. But beyond that simple concept, you also just have the basic process that has to take place as far as all these lawsuits, as far as all these challenge goes, to get us to a point where maybe most Americans can finally evaluate this as easily as, say, the legal people that are going through the process in all the different states. It's hard for us to process that as just everyday Americans who don't often dive into dismissed lawsuits in places like Pennsylvania or Texas. That's not usually the literature I pick while I'm spending my time, my alone time doing, what I'm talking about. That's not usually the reading material I bring with. So I think we do need a much more high profile version of all this to really, truly understand it. In other news, and this is not other news to me and probably not other news to you, but it's been widely dismissed for a long time as far as the national media goes. And what's very interesting is now the conversation is why. To me, the most intriguing aspect is that people are asking, why was the Biden story? Why are Hunter Biden, why are Joe Biden's brother is now maybe involved in some of this? Why is all this dismissed until now? Not the October surprise that you always get that might derail a campaign. Why did the media sit on this story until January when they're very confident, even honestly, December, and even honestly, late enough into December to feel as though the actual presidency is locked up? Once they felt that there was going to be challenges and we didn't know how those challenges were going to go in the world of media, this story still wasn't being discussed a lot. But now it's finally breaking that investigations existed as far back as 2018, that there's a lot of pieces in play. I'll get to that audio. You know what I'll do? I'll take a break. I'll get to a lot of that audio on the Hunter Biden investigation, the Biden family being investigated for a lot of different financially weird things that took place, all in just a bit. This is Craig Collins filling in on the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show, where we reach across the aisle and occasionally poke someone in the eye.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in. I mentioned just before the break, the Hunter Biden investigation is now finally being talked about a little bit more in the world of mainstream news. And the talking heads, they are covering this issue. They are talking about the investigation and how it was opened way back in 2018. Actually, as this is going on, the president has also blasted the FBI and the DOJ for not reporting the Hunter Biden investigation before the election. There is some precedent for that. The FBI usually shies away from releasing information that they deem possibly impacting the elections. But the information was out there. The New York Post and a lot of other places had leaked this story. There was a bunch of all the conversations about the laptop. That all existed. And for some reason, most of the media was like, no. We all know the reason why, actually. So here is part of that conversation. Now, Trey Gowdy, one of the people discussing the media bias that is definitely present in the coverage and now odd reactivating of the story now that they feel the election is entirely over. Most Americans on the left feel the election is entirely over. About 70% of Republicans feel that there's still a process to go here, which is very interesting to me, too. But let's hear from Trey.
Think about all the things we read and saw in the weeks leading up to the election. We saw Donald Trump's tax returns in the New York Times. We saw that Eric Trump was being deposed by the Attorney General. I mean, Ivanka Trump's business dealings, Jared Kushner's business dealings, all of that is fair game. Now, think about how many leaks the New York Times has gotten about ongoing investigations, and not a word about Hunter Biden or any member of the Biden family. And for those who did write about it, for those who did investigate it, the social media platforms punish you if you try to disseminate that information. So
that is an excellent point, by the way. Way to go, Trey. That the tail end of that is absolutely true. And right now it's definitely true as far as anyone putting any information. I put a question up on my Facebook page. By the way, this is a plug for me. Facebook.com/Craig Collins Show. Find Chad Benson on all the platforms too, please. Twitter. He's all over the place. A much bigger following than me. But I put a question up about if the Supreme Court should hear one of the election cases. I didn't insinuate that the cases had validity or not. And I saw a post pop up on my Facebook right after I did that, directing anyone that goes to my page to go look at the results of the election. I'm like, I mentioned the election, Facebook. I mentioned the fact that they might eventually be in front of the Supreme Court, but I didn't actually take a side. And so we need to make sure that everybody following my, as I said, lightly followed page needs to see all the election information according to Facebook. That's it's very odd. And the fact that there's an antitrust lawsuit for them, too, which I'll get into a little bit later, is interesting to me, because I think that's definitely a road we should have gone down before. But as we continue to discuss the Hunter Biden and the additional Biden family members who might be wrapped up in some of the odd dealings, we get to a place that, I had this person, this friend of mine, who swore to me that the entire Biden campaign was a red herring and that eventually someone would be replacing him for one reason or another, that sometime after the election, if Biden were to win, he would step down and whoever was, I think at the time we didn't even know who the vice presidential candidate was going to be on his ticket, that person would take over. I am starting to wonder if that was accurate, because if this story was so well known and might have as many branches as it appears that it could have, I can't imagine that this will be a nothing burger again in the world of the the media and or the legal system. But let's hear a little bit from Tom Cotton, too, who talks about the way in which the Biden family has kind of always been doing this. They've been trading financially on Biden's name and on his positions as he's been a politician for years. And this is not necessarily new, but it is something that if it gets investigated as much as it sounds like it hopefully will continue to be, there's going to be a lot of things that come out as far as maybe additional packages from the closet, let's say.
The Biden family has been trading on Joe Biden's public office for 50 years. Valerie Biden Owens, his sister, and Jim Biden, his brother, and Hunter Biden, his son. Do we really think that will change if Joe Biden becomes president, the highest office in the land? If they did it when he was vice president and he was senator, of course it's going to happen when he has even more power.
That I can't argue with that. We will see. We will continue to see how information breaks on that story and how much of it is covered by mainstream media. It is a very, very interesting story to me. And the president of the United States said, why didn't the fake news media, the FBI and the DOJ, report the Biden matter before the election? Oh, well, it's okay. We won the election anyway by 75 million votes. He puts all that on his Twitter page. And again, he's getting blasted on a daily basis for the things he says on social media. And it's very odd to think about the way in which so many of these things are controlled, that if you go to social media and put up a Biden story right now, odds are it might get taken down or censored in some way. The president obviously getting censored all the time. And I think Twitter has even said that once he's no longer in office, there's a good chance they might ban the guy, which is the strangest thing, too. Because I know a lot of people think the things he says are all just crap and, he's just an internet troll come to life. I think that's the joke of some that very much hate the man. And yet to have a former president banned from a highly popular social media platform, that would be odd. That would be odd as far as the amount of obvious kind of assumptions we could all make about the political feelings of the people in charge of these platforms. And as I said, there is going to be some additional challenges to at least Facebook and probably some of the other ones as far as the monopoly is concerned. So there's a lot of stuff to get to today. It's Friday, though, so we'll have fun, too. Craig Collins filling in for Chad Benson.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in. Lots to get to. I can't help but keep talking, though, about the election, about the reaction of people as far as the challenges go. I actually even had somebody go after me on social media yesterday. They went after Chad, which I felt bad for, but I think they were talking about me and how I've said time and again on this platform and anyone that you put me on that right now I've seen no proof of fraud in the election. I've seen no proof. I'm not saying none exists. I want to be very clear about that, but I've personally seen none, and I would like to see some before I start saying things like, hey, there's definitely fraud here when I go on whatever platform I'm going on. And I think that's true for a lot of people. However, the American people don't seem to have that same criteria, and I'm not judging. I'm just saying here is Morning Joe, and I always like to play audio from him actually for some reason. But here's he gets handed a piece of information, or somebody told him in his ear about a recent Q poll and the results of it, and then he has a take, and I'll have my own take, which will disagree with Joe's. But go ahead, take it away, Mr. Scarborough.
Q poll out says the majority of Americans believe the election was fair, but 77% of Republicans believe that there was widespread voter fraud. Just seriously, I mean, it's basically means 77% of Republicans are disconnected from reality and actually live in an alternative reality. But that is what it is.
That is what it is. I think I can explain to everybody. I think I'm going to try to explain to probably a lot of people that might have voted a certain way. I don't know. I don't know what your politics are, whoever listens here, but I can't wait in a second to explain why I think that this is the problem we saw in 2016, by the way, and are seeing again in 2020, and why the enemy changes. So if you remember back in 2016, President Trump won the election. This is not news to anyone. And Hillary lost. Hillary seemed to not really trust what had happened. I don't know if you remember, several stories, lots of information, even some challenges being discussed as far as the election and what may or may not have occurred. I think Russia was the big fear as far as tampering with the election. But I go back to October 9th of 2020. That would be just about a month or so ago, 2 months ago of this very year. During a podcast for The Atlantic, Hillary Clinton said that she thought that the election was still compromised. This is a quote from Hillary Clinton, and this is October. I bet you she wants to take this back now because of what's going on after, obviously, the election had not occurred yet. There was widespread understanding that this election in 2016 was not on the level, she said during an interview in the latest episode of The Atlantic's podcast, The Ticket. We still don't know what really happened. This is Hillary Clinton talking about the one she lost. And there were a lot of Democrats who came out and said that they didn't understand everything that happens. She said that when you have millions of votes, 3 million more votes in the popular vote, and you lose, how does that make sense? And these do sound now like similar arguments being made by the president of the amount of support that Joe Biden got compared to Barack Obama when he was breaking a barrier, when he was, getting elected, the first African-American ever to hold the office of president in 2008. It was surprising to see Joe outdo those numbers to a lot of people. But so here's the thing. Here's what I believe to be true. If you're someone who's on the left, if you're someone who's, Democratic leaning, liberal, whatever, very, very woke, I assume all the time in every scenario, statues, you need them all taken down. There's a lot of stuff you want to see done. The enemy for you is usually some big, scary bad guy off in the distance somewhere that you don't understand, or it's other Americans. The enemy for you, the deplorables, if you remember those terms, are the people that just don't get it the way you get it. They're not as smart as you. They're not as whatever as you are, as woke, of course, as you are. And so usually the enemy becomes all the dumb people that voted for that's what the left will say. That's what, if you have a buddy or someone who leans that way and you dive into politics, which brave if you do, usually you'll get the final decision being that the problem is the American people, the ones that didn't vote like they did. Now, that's not the way that Republicans are processing this. That's not the way that many people on the right feel about what could have screwed up this election. It's not the other side. It's not the enemy, as in an everyday American who just voted opposite you, which I think is very interesting in and of itself. That on the left, you're more likely to see the enemy as another person that you go to the grocery store with who just so happen to disagree as far as voting is concerned or disagree about any other woke policy. But for people on the right, it's a distrust of the government. It's a distrust of the process. Did the process go correctly? Did they break a rule? Did they hide something from us? Is there any chance the government official would say one thing and then go and do something else or maybe hide some money somewhere? That has always been the case, I think. I think a lot of individuals who wind up voting for someone like President Trump, when he says he's going to drain the swamp, believe that a swamp exists, and there is the disconnect. There are the two sides of the aisle. The enemy, as far as the right is concerned, is not other Americans who may or may not have voted different than you. The enemy is this hidden agenda, this hidden deep state, whatever you want to call it, that exists behind closed doors that we don't know about. And somebody on the left just dismisses the existence of that at all. They're like, that doesn't exist. Come on, be quiet. Stop what you're saying. And I think it's tremendously interesting to remember just 4 years ago, and obviously apparently just a couple months ago, that people were not sure that the election was on the up and up, that was a conversation being had. And yes, Hillary Clinton did concede, and the president has not. President Trump has still not conceded. He still wants to fight in courtrooms. But truthfully, we've seen all this before. We've seen the behavior from the other side. And the most important thing to me is, and maybe the enemy is too strong of a word, but the problem, the way that it exists in the minds of those who think the election was unfair, has changed. It's gone from other human beings who voted different than you, which is what the left always does. That's always the way it works, right? Change the opinion of everyone is the idea as far as people who support one side of the aisle. Make sure everybody's brain works exactly the same. And if somebody's brain doesn't, we have a problem in our country. And the opposite side is the government's a little corrupt, and we need to figure out what exactly is going on. Which of those two are you more likely to think? That's just me. But which of those two are you more likely to support? In other news, shifting gears a bit, and actually I'm going to shift gears to a happier story, in my opinion, a lighter story. This has gone viral. There's a couple in Texas, a married couple. They've been married for 41 years. And recently, I guess, there was a photo put on social media, a Facebook post from Tracy Howell. She takes a bite out of every sandwich she makes for her husband. She's been doing this for a long time in the relationship. She makes a sandwich, puts it in the box for him, which I love, by the way. My wife makes me meals when I go to work, which I just admitted, and I'm going to live there. I think it's awesome. I think it's very adorable. But she takes a bite out of it, and the reason why is what's melting the hearts of everyone on social media. I guess early on in their relationship, she used to go eat with him at lunch while he was on a break at work, and he said that it was always better to have lunch with her. It was always better to share the meal. It made the whole day better. So instead of going and being with him at work, she just takes a bite out of the sandwich. That is adorable. That's what we need. We need more of those stories in this year, the year that is 2020, of a wife just for 40-ish years sharing lunch every day, one way or another. This is a way to be very creative, a way to get around some hurdles, and I love it. I love it so much. I'll probably try to put it on some social media pages so you can find it too. And we all need to do more of this, even though I will say that the whole bite out of the sandwich thing, there is a gross component, sure, and also a sad, depending on how big the bite is. I don't know if she gets hungrier some days than others, but it might be. But it's still adorable. Let's not poke holes. This seems like a very bad thing for me to do. One last story, and then I got to take a break. A new poll or a new report has said that 1 in 5 Americans injure themselves while putting up a Christmas tree. I don't know what's more like a kick in the gut. Because like you see these stories, and you're like, oh, that's absolutely fitting for the year we're all living. But you're trying to put up a Christmas tree and it harms you. And 1 in 5 people actually deal with this. The number is 122% higher than it's been in the past. In 2020, no mercy is given to anyone. I feel like we're in a fight with a bully who's 2 years older than us. That's how I feel. I feel like I'm on the playground in school. I'm in some sort of grade school, and the bully picking on me is in 8th grade, and I'm in like 4th. Because the minute that you find out that we have a surge in the amount of injuries people are dealing with while putting up Christmas trees, you're like, all right, man, this year, I'm ready to be over. Let's go ahead and move on to 2021 and hope for the best that year. The vaccine's out. Fauci is already airing some caution. But for most of us, I hope that it's going to turn into a much better year. All right, I got to take a break. A lot going on. Chad Benson Show. Craig Collins filling in.
I usually don't get into politics. As an ordinary suburban housewife, I feel a little disrespected. I teach my children not to name call.
You are a blabbermouth! Come on, man!
Guys, can we please keep the chatter to a minimum?
Chad Benson.
Just a loudmouth.
Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in. Happy to be with you. Happy to hang out today. I saw that Disney World is going to do something interesting. They're going to digitally add masks to guests who aren't wearing masks while on rides that take photos of them. This is so much work for a very silly result, in my opinion. Not saying that you should or shouldn't wear a mask. I think you should, but that's not the point. I don't know why the company wants to go this far, in my opinion. I have no idea why they care so much about that photo that none of us ever really care. How many times have you bought one of those? In all honesty, how many times in your life have you been like, oh, that photo of me plunging toward my death, but it didn't actually kill me? That's how you feel at that moment on the ride when it snaps the photo. That's something I need in my life. And oh, they added a mask. Look at that. I don't know if they'd also add maybe additional layers to it. Maybe we get silly masks there. But this has been reported. Disney World would not allow those without masks to see or purchase the photos taken during rides. Now they're going to digitally add them. That is, to me, fantastic. I want to bring in my producer Phil, for a second. I have two things I want to bring him in for. The first one is actually whether or not he understands or knows or has heard of this term, toilet virginity.
No, I don't.
Okay, so there's a woman in Australia very upset, Phil. She thinks the tradesmen who are doing work on her brand new house have disrespected her and her family by taking the toilet virginity of the home. These were brand new toilets purchased for the house, and they were using them while working on the home. She then wrote this letter. Here's the note. She put it up in I think somebody put this on Facebook, but she put this in one of the bathrooms. Dear tradesmen, the toilets in this house are not rightfully yours to use. We are paying for an outdoor toilet for your use. Not only did you take the virginity of the toilets, but you disrespectfully ignored the seal sign, ripped the tape, and continued to use them. She tried to seal them up, Phil.
It had been besmirched.
Right. It's ruined. I will say, though, I do wonder sometimes, like maybe more in the workplace than anywhere else, if you do feel there's always some odd situations that go on there. So maybe it's just a significant amount of things took place in the toilet and made her sad about her new home. I don't know.
I don't get it.
Okay, well, let's move on to another story, and this is something I love that you sent me. Logan Paul knocked out Nate Robinson. That was not much of a fight. I'm not a big fan of YouTubers, but Logan Paul is, I guess, a popular one. Nate Robinson, former NBA player. This makes no sense, though. The question asked to Logan while doing an interview with Jamela Hill is whether or not he actually committed a hate crime. That's kind of what she said. Here, let's hear it.
Jake, considering where we are right now in our racial conversation in America, was what you did to Nate Robinson racist?
That is the question of the week.
Man.
Nah, stop playing with me. Come on.
They're really asking him if it was racist, Phil.
What, okay, hang on. So, let's see. Is he supposed to not take the fight? Is he supposed to just let Nate win? How does this not become... This is a job that he's doing.
Right. And I don't know if they were maybe kind of laughing it off after Logan Paul reacted the way he did, but I would say that if you had to accept the fact that maybe you can't knock him out, then I think the solution is that you also feint. If you knock him out and notice that he's about to lose and you wanted everything to be equal, Logan Paul takes a dive and nobody wins. Maybe that's the right approach for Jamela.
Call it a draw.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Actually, I've selfishly brought you in for one last thing because I don't want to do this alone. I feel a little scared. We've talked about it the last 2 days as I've been filling in for Chad. I have to get in front of a news story so I don't get canceled in 2020, Phil.
Well, I think that's a very good thing for you to do.
Right. Well, if you remember last year, there were viral stories, a lot of discussion, and I don't know that anybody recalls this, but I dismissed these stories. I thought they were no big deal at the time, and I claimed that I had information that I didn't. I'm, of course, talking about the Popeyes chicken sandwich and how popular it was. I said last year that I had tried one. It wasn't really special. We all need to calm down. That was not true, Phil. I tried my first Popeyes chicken sandwich last week. They are life-changing.
Well, that's good. And, it's good for you. The audience appreciates honesty, and it really comes through on the radio.
Well, thank you. I had to make sure to say I'm sorry for my bad take last year. I don't think that violence made sense. I still don't think that the sandwich was good enough to harm other individuals, but it is a delicious chicken product. And I think there's several people I should apologize to for saying on social media that they were idiots. And I was just very wrong, and I don't want to get canceled by any of the chicken people.
Well, how does it compare to the KFC Double Down?
Oh, is the Double Down the one that had no bread?
Yeah, it was just two chicken breasts.
See, now I'm not going to lie. I'm going to tell the truth. I have had a Double Down. I thought that's just a heart attack begging to happen, right?
I got one just to say I had one.
Okay, yeah, see? Have you had the Popeyes chicken sandwich?
I will admit I have not.
Okay, well, you still got to get it done because it's time. Although they're still selling out, which surprised me. I went to one Popeyes that didn't have one after I got another hankering the other day. But I apologize to anyone out there that thought that, Craig Collins was bigger than this. I lied. I said that I'd had the chicken sandwich, and I hadn't. And now I understand. Now my world is totally different.
And I think the internet will forgive you for that.
Okay, well, we'll see. Well, you never know, actually, on Twitter. I would love to be trending. That would be the best thing ever. The Collins chicken fiasco or something like that. Because I do think that Twitter could go after anything. It's truthfully any topic, any story, anything in the news. They will go, you know what, actually, let's shift gears. I know I got a little bit more time before break. Both McDonald's and Chipotle are getting in on like the celebrity meal thing. And I don't understand this either. I feel like social media should be making more fun of this. It's just a sandwich or a product on a menu, but you're adding a celebrity's name to it. And McDonald's had a lot of success with Travis Scott. Now they're going to do ones with the Grinch, Rudolph, and John McClane. They all have meals on the McDonald's menu. And then Chipotle's going a Miley Cyrus, who's all over the place. But I think this proves that some people care way too much about celebrity, maybe some younger people. Because if you buy a burrito because Miley's name is attached to it and not because you want a burrito, I judge that.
I'm judging that with you too.
Okay, good. Yeah, I feel like it makes no sense to have someone say, you know what, I don't feel like the vegetarian burrito. I'm going to go, wait a minute, is Miley's name attached to it? My mind has totally changed. And McDonald's is just being bold. They're just making decisions for fictional characters. I don't know that the Grinch would pick this sandwich and the items that they're picking there, the cookies and all the things that are involved in these. Maybe Santa, of course, would go that road, but I wonder if everyone's just desperate for more sales. Like maybe that's all it is 2020's been tough on all of us. We're going to add celebrity names to our sandwiches and hope that they do well. And actually, full circle, Craig Collins willing to be the name tied to the Popeyes chicken sandwich. I don't know that that'll help it sell. Most people have no idea who the heck I am, but it's the Craig Collins chicken sandwich at Popeyes coming soon. That's probably unlikely. All right, Chad Benson Show, Craig Collins filling in. Thank you for the help, Phil. More in a bit.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Craig Collins filling in. Happy to be with you on a Friday. I saw this story and I got excited, then I got confused, which maybe that explains the way I see most stories. At-home COVID-19 tests may now be available or may be available soon for the low price of $125 a pop. Regularly, they're $144. The kit confirms whether or not you are infected with SARS-CoV-2, the strain of coronavirus responsible for COVID-19. Your test will be evaluated and approved by independent board-certified physicians in your state, who then return results within 72 hours of the lab receiving your saliva sample. I don't know if we need these at home. I mean, it's probably a good thing. I guess it's a good thing for us to just self-administer all the time. But I do worry about the guy who doesn't follow directions well with anything and what he winds up putting the Q-tip in and what he winds up sending to the physicians to test. This is just my opinion, not yours. It is authorized by the FDA under the emergency use authorization guidelines. This is obviously going to make it a lot safer for people who are at risk to get their tests done. I do also think that there might be some abuse of this system if you know some people that are more afraid than others. And I'm not trying to diminish the seriousness of the illness. The numbers have been awful. And everything you hear is that the next couple months are going to be historically sad months for us where we're going to have historically bad numbers. The death toll is rising and breaking unfortunate records on a daily basis. So I understand the need for every innovation possible, and this is a good thing. At the same time, there are people that we all know who are very worried, very afraid. Maybe they're not at-risk individuals. Maybe there's not a lot of reason for them to be as scared as they are, who probably will buy up and test every single day to a degree that's probably unnecessary. So I don't know if it's so great to get these sort of medical devices in the hands of everybody out there, but I imagine the good outweighs the bad, and I just thought it was an interesting story. It actually kind of ties to this. The Biden team has been asked how they're going to coronavirus-proof or COVID-proof the White House when they take the White House. And again, I know that some people feel that's not going to happen, but the Biden team is planning for that transition, and I guess they're going to clean everything. There's going to be a deep cleaning process of the entire White House after the Trump family, after the Trump administration leaves, before the Biden administration takes over, if that is, again, what is to happen. They're going to clean all the furniture, doorknobs, handrails, light switches, thoroughly and fully disinfect the White House. A private contractor group will be provided that will will provide disinfectant misting services to even clear the air of any potentially lingering droplets. That's a whole sentence, a whole phrase I never thought I'd speak in my life, that in between administrations, there's going to be a deep cleaning of the White House that includes a disinfectant misting service. because, and this is just my opinion, if you don't have anybody testing positive for the virus that's in the White House right now, I would say the odds are that when you take over, maybe there's not going to be, I don't know what they're worried about, like a hidden droplet that's not infecting anyone, because we're not getting constant outbreaks in the world of the White House, at least right now. But this is a real story. This is a real news story that I think Politico had this one, that it will be a thorough cleaning before the Biden administration gets in there. And, and I pray that these sort of things don't happen. I don't wish ill on anyone. But if someone gets sick after they do all this, are we going to feel like that money got wasted? I don't even know how much money it is. I can't find the exact quote for how expensive it is to deep clean the entire White House, including misting the air to make sure that it's clean. But if that doesn't wind up working the way that everyone hopes it does, or if it winds up being utterly unnecessary in a White House that I know there has been illness that's taken, I know that people have gotten sick there, but there's still a lot that we don't understand about this, and this feels to me to be a step too far. All right, I've waited on this story a bit, partially because it's Friday, and I kind of want to have more fun on Friday than another lawsuit story, and this isn't the lawsuit story. This is more about Facebook. The U.S. government in 48 states are seeking to pry Facebook from Instagram and WhatsApp, two of the giant additional companies that Facebook purchased. One, a messaging service. The other one, another social media platform more focused on photos. If you don't know what they are, that is my explanation of them. This is all in a massive antitrust action that will take place. CEO Mark Zuckerberg has in the past spoken about the threat of some of this stuff, but said, of course, that Facebook has got it covered. What makes me excited about the idea that we start to see lawsuits like this, we start to see companies in the world of social media broken apart, or maybe even in the world of Amazon kind of dismantled a tad, is the idea that we would have far better ability to do all the things necessary to make these platforms better. Right now, you have a very odd version of checking facts or censoring some, not censoring other things. I think if you make the company smaller, if Facebook can focus on one platform, its platform, and not have to make sure that everything's going right on 3, 4, 6 platforms, not, deal with all the different things that come with, because that's what they've said. Every time that someone testifies and says your platform is irresponsible for this reason or that reason, or maybe it's overly censoring some things here and there, the response by anyone in power positions of these social media companies is we're too big. We're just too big to censor everything. Everybody is on our platform. It's just too hard for us to make all that work. Well, let's make you smaller. Let's reduce some of that size and make things a little bit easier. In several different statements, some of the investigators have said that it's fairly obvious. I'm paraphrasing this, fairly obvious that this is, a monopoly, that this is a company that controls one too many different things. And obviously Facebook, more so than others, according to these suits, has really desired to keep that stranglehold. Because if anyone remembers what Facebook was when it started, and I do, I talk about it because I'm a millennial who was in college when it came out and I got to join it. It was just any other social media platform. It wasn't anything special. It was just the place that people went at the time. Now, obviously, there's other ones. There's a bunch of phone apps and other things that you can get on, but Facebook has done a unique job in trying to buy up anyone who's a real competitor to them to keep that monopoly. And I know that there's apps, sites like Parler and other things popping up to give more chance to those who have differing opinions than the social media brain trust that exists on places like Twitter and Facebook. But for the most part, the reason it hasn't been working and the reason we don't have 75 different social media apps, we have like 7,000 ways to stream TV and movies. There's a bunch of competitors in that world, but there's not as many in the social media world because Facebook, for one, has been trying their best to prevent those sort of things from happening. And I hope this is good news. I hope that this winds up helping a lot in the world of more fair versions of censorship, of more beneficial, different ways in which the companies that own these sort of platforms utilize them in a responsible manner. This also then leads me to TikTok, actually, which of course we all talked about for a while. The connection with China, very scary. But here, and I'm worried about the way I phrase this, because if the missus is listening, if my wife is listening, I don't want her to think I'm saying something I'm not saying. But I said this is a social media trend. It's on TikTok. No one has any idea where I'm going right now. Women are going viral because they look very young, and then they reveal their real age. And TikTok is probably the youngest of the social media platforms. I imagine most people that utilize this are in their teens to early 20s as far as the most popular people on the platform, maybe early 30s. And so women women in their late 30s, 40s, those kind of things are going viral because they look young, they dress young. I noticed this in some of the things that I looked at that, yes, I did the research. They dress like very young people. And then eventually within the video, they reveal that they're actually a mom or maybe even older than that. And I think, and this is the way that I'm trying to say this, my wife is a lovely young human. She's not, I'm not trying to say anything, but I think she'd do really well here because my wife, no one ever guesses her age correctly. So I think I have a path to going viral, and it's with the missus, but I don't know how to broach the topic. Maybe tell me on my social media platform, Facebook.com/Craig Collins Show, or go to the Chad platform. If you discover something that a loved one might be able to do, and it might help make them viral, not that I guess she probably doesn't want to do that, but if that's a thing, if there's an opportunity out there, some money is tied to it, come on, there's ways. How do you broach the topic if it involves talking about age? I'm not sure that I can do it. I'll figure it out with your help. But I got to take another break. I think the wife is already texting me. This is Craig Collins filling in on the Chad Benson Show. I deny this whole segment.
I can't take it anymore!
Well, get over it. It's time to forge a new path with your very own political cartographer, Chad.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in. Let me think about the best way to articulate this. Some people feel as though the year 2020 is like a swift kick to a very sensitive area, an area on men. That's what they feel like the whole year has been, a swift kick into that region. Well, at least some people, these are people in China, are taking that as far as you can possibly go. They're embracing it. You know, some people say steer into the skid to make sure you get out of it. If you're sliding on ice or something, you steer in, you get control of the car back. I guess this is his real name. I can't believe this story. The guy's name is Wang Litai. He is one of the few remaining people that swear by some sort of, I guess there's probably there's an element to it that goes beyond just the actual execution. There's got to be some sort of emotional component or spiritual component to it. That's what I was looking for. But the guy is dubbed Iron Crotch Kung Fu, and he's I can't help it. That's what he practices. It's a painful technique in which the 65-year-old man has to brace himself while an 88-pound steel-capped log is repeatedly rammed into a certain portion of his body, and he is able to take that pain better than anyone else. This is why he's famous in the area. He's reportedly the best practitioner of the 300-year-old discipline. It is actually quoted in Reuters as a discipline in which you are hit in the scrotum. I can't help myself. This is silly. It's getting very silly, at least for me. As long as you push yourself, he's quoted in the article because they take it very seriously. Like, I couldn't interview this human. I couldn't do it. You couldn't send me anywhere. If the Chad Benson Show wants a ridiculous version of an interview, send me to go meet Wang Litai and ask him about his fame, and we're going to get some interesting things. But he said to the reporter that interviewed him, as long as you push yourself, you will feel great. That cannot be accurate. That can't be possible. Please don't worry about this, he assured his family when they asked him when he was first trying to get into it. If practicing this damaged any part of the body permanently, then over time, no one would do it. And here I have a huge problem with that concept. Yes, people would. People do dumb things. If you remember, there was a TV show and then a movie franchise called Jackass. That was a thing that existed because people did dumb things on television and none of them looked safe. Now, if you're going to talk to the kids about the things that exist in the world that are, popular with them, there's something called fail videos in which people post videos of themselves online, social media, or probably even just their friends. I don't know that a lot of people self-inflict this wound. And it's you doing something stupid and it not going right. And if you've ever seen these videos, and what's weird is actually my wife got into them during the first quarantine. This was months ago. A way to feel a little bit better was to watch fail videos on Snapchat. That's a thing she would do. They look dangerous. There's people like taking a four-wheeler off a cliff and you're not sure what happened at the end of it. And then just a little symbol like fail video pops up. And I guess you're supposed to assume everyone made it out okay. But that is the process. And this guy is claiming that people would stop doing things if it harmed them? No. We have so many examples of how that's not true. And yet I do feel like the thing that he was practicing, the thing that he's an expert in, prepared him well for challenging years like this year. One last thing he said, the master claims that the more you practice, the better you get at this sport, if that's what I'm calling it. Repeatedly hitting, and this is what he used, the term he used, the bag helps increase the fortitude, according to fellow iron crotch people that are there as well. I can't, any portion of this story, I can't help talking about it. All right, I'll move on. I feel like everyone's begging me to stop talking about Wang Latai, who, again, I'm volunteering for the Chad Benson Show to go interview, but no one wants that. We don't want any part of the questions I'll ask him. I saw this story, and I think it's nice, and probably a good way to have feel-good conversations is actually just to talk about dogs. I have 2 stories about dogs in front of me. A survey of 2,000 Americans demonstrated that dog owners, the first-time dog owners, might underestimate the amount of damage that first dog does to the home. You should prepare for about $122.32 worth of ruined things, mostly shoes, I guess, is the thing that if you didn't have a dog in the house, shoes are going to be less protected than once the dog gets into the home. They also point out that they might mess with some doors, some handles, some other things, scratch the bottom. Emergency vet visits is 5% of the cost there, and then 4% is destroyed additional furniture. You've got to dog-proof your home, according to this article. Otherwise, you're going to wind up having some issues. It takes about 11 hours to train a dog to be used to an environment. If you bring them into your home and can do that effectively, then it doesn't even take that long to get them to know what is and isn't okay. Most respondents said that their dogs went through multiple toys, destroyed a few pieces of furniture, and often got out several times in the first few months that they had the animal. That's the thing for me that I'm most sure would happen. My wife and I would very much want a dog this year. We've talked about it a lot, and I'm sure I would let it out. I'm sure that's the biggest mistake I'll make, just constantly. And it's not like I leave doors open all the time, but we have no pets, we have no children, so it's very easy for me to assume that my wife's not running out of the house when the door's open for a second. If she was, that'd be a bad look for me. But I'm sure that I'll make that mistake several a time whenever we do finally go ahead and get a puppy. But this is good to know. This is good to prepare for. Dogs, lovely, wonderful creatures. You just have to do a little bit of homework. I also saw that they don't understand human speech as well as we all think they do. This is another study out there, another survey. And apparently they even scan the brains of animals while having owners speak to them and give them certain commands. And the results, although I don't understand them, demonstrate that maybe the processing of information is not quite what we think it is. Even if the dog does what you expect a dog to do, if they understood the words you said, according to researchers in Hungary who went down this road because they were bored, because I think a lot of science in 2020 is, I'm very bored, I need to study something. But they went down the road and said that it demonstrated to them that the processing of information wasn't unique enough for us to believe that the dog actually understood the words you said, even as far as like sit and certain things. There are some words that they do the right action, but maybe they don't totally get it. This makes no sense to me. I've seen time and again a well-trained dog do the right thing in the right moment, but maybe there's more body language involved. Maybe there's other things. How big is a dog's vocabulary, according to this study? Not a lot of words. Not a lot. So that's bad news, I guess. But these are dog stories, and they should have been uplifting. So I don't know that I did any of that well. A dog does help you get homework done. I saw that there was also news about that a kid who interacts with an animal, if they're working from home, if they're doing school from home, is more likely to finish more of that material if you've got a dog to interact with while you're doing the homework. So there, I found it. I found one positive story. Dogs will ruin your home. Dogs are not as smart as we think they are, but hey, they'll help you get your homework done for the kids. I got a lot more coming up. I'm happy to fill in. Craig Collins is here, the Chad Benson Show. Chad's back on Monday. Iron Crotch is a story.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Chad will be back on Monday. My name is Craig Collins filling in. It's a Friday. I like to have fun on a Friday. But before I do that, let's talk about something that makes no sense to me, which is a lot of news stories every single day. This one for sure. Police officers in California may soon need a 4-year degree to even apply for a gig there. A legislator in California has proposed a new plan in which police officers will be required to hold a bachelor's degree, not necessarily in anything valuable, by the way. Like, this is now the ultimate version of, I'm going to go and study art, and then I'm not going to utilize my degree at all, but at least be 25 years old in order to create a more responsible force. That's the plan as far as, politicians go in California. I would just say this to anybody that's considering this or any other, I guess, similar sort of action. If you're in the military, and at least me right now, I don't know that everybody agrees with this, which is very sad, but a lot of people, of course, do. A lot of people listening do. The military, it's not always easy to also go ahead and get your college degree. Usually there's a lot of people who serve, protect our country, do the right thing every single day that they're in the military. And then those individuals, when they get out of their first tour of service, their first tour of duty or anything that they wind up doing, a lot of those people wind up being police officers. There are a lot of individuals I've met over the years who had served in the Army, in the Marines, what have you, and wind up going ahead and trying to be police officers in their own community to serve and protect those here at home. If those individuals would be precluded from becoming members of our force because, I don't know, the assumption is that they didn't actually have the time to go ahead and get a 4-year degree at a university while doing something that is arguably as, if not much more valuable in signing up for it just makes no sense. I know that the arguments back and forth, I know there's information out there about whether or not, more serious weapons being provided to police officers escalates or de-escalates the situation. If you have people showing up in tactical gear, for example, there have been hot takes all over the place as to how valuable that sort of thing is. But to start to remove the ability for some individuals to choose to go down a path that has been so much of our society now, and you see this complaint all the time in the millennial world, in the world that I'm from, so much of our society now requires ridiculous degrees in order to get jobs that didn't used to have the degree requirements. There's a lot of things that get put out on social media and go viral where someone is hiring for essentially like a cashier, and they're looking for someone with a bachelor's degree or better, maybe a master's in finance, in order to go ahead and ring people up for sandwiches at some local store. And it just makes no sense. And I'm not trying to demean the mental value or the mental need for a intelligent person to be an armed forces officer, to be a police officer. I'm not going down that road at all. I'm not trying to say what is and isn't a valuable career. And but the artificial or silly, in my opinion, requirement to have a degree of some kind from a college, there's a lot of people who would say that didn't prepare them for the real world correctly, that's not what got them to the place they're in now as an adult years after college, and that obviously there's all these debates as to how expensive it is and how everybody wants a bailout from the cost of it. And truthfully, maybe what we need to do is stop having every single careers that you might need to learn a lot more on the job than in a classroom. Those careers don't require a hurdle like this. And this would be case in point for this story, that it just makes no sense to me to go down the road of requiring every single person that applies for a job as a police officer in California to have a 4-year degree of some kind. Because honestly, there's a lot of different things that you'd need to be good at a job like that. And one of them is not a Bachelor of Arts. That's not necessarily, in my opinion, what you need. All right, let's move on to other news, sillier news, because as I said, I want to have a more fun day today. I saw this and couldn't believe it. And you got to tell me if you believe this too. I want to know from anybody out there on our social media pages. Go to the Chad Benson Show on Facebook, on Twitter, tweet at us. I love to, every time I fill in, I usually ask for a tweet that makes no sense to Chad when he gets back to be on social media. And this is the one. Do ugly Christmas sweaters turn you on? That is a real question. Someone did some research. They looked into it. According to a survey, 96% of single people, 96, said that an ugly Christmas sweater is a turn on to them during the holiday season, not a turn off. 42% of people said that they don't usually make the first move. But if someone's wearing a holiday Christmas sweater, an ugly one, it seems like they're more approachable and icebreakers are easier. That's why if you go out purposefully looking ugly, at least in the sweater form, people are less likely to be intimidated by you. Even if you're, ridiculously attractive, you could be a model. But as long as you rock the ugly Christmas sweater, you're more approachable. And I guess everyone's having a much better time. The 42% that said they wouldn't make the first move just said that they're worried about rejection. And so what I think is also interesting about that is the assumption that a Christmas sweater and a Christmas sweater alone means you're going to succeed as you start to shoot a little bit over maybe your typical your typical number. You start to shoot for a 10 instead of an 8, which might be some of us out there. And you just hope for the best because, well, hey, they're wearing a silly sweater. This means that they're obviously a fun person. I also saw this story, and I just kind of like some of these headlines, actually. And I can't really totally process the validity in this one, but you try it out. Sneezes act like, and I quote, mini atomic bombs, and the traveling distance of all the spittle, all the things that come out of your mouth when you spit, is well beyond 6 feet, according to a new study that's warned about this. Oh, man. This is out of the UK. A university did a mathematical modeling of people's sneezes and coughs, and they found that they can travel on average more like 11 feet, not necessarily 6 feet. And this is even if you start to try to cover the mouth, I guess, a little bit. The vortex of germs that they were calling it spreads like a small explosion that goes on. I just think about the world we all started in at the beginning of this year and the world we're all in now. And the fact that some scientist somewhere is studying the spread of a sneeze as if it were a weapon being utilized. And I know I'm not trying to diminish the health concerns that so many of us have and so many things that you see in the news. But this does feel to me to be a step too far at the very least. And maybe you just had aggressive sneezers. Maybe these people are the people that are sneezing a little bit more for show than doing it just because that's the natural way they do it. We all know somebody like that who sneezes hard, and you always wonder if that was authentic or not because the answer is usually it's not. All right, one last story in the, I guess, sillier variety because for me, that's what I'm into. A woman is suing her boyfriend after 8 years of being together. She's suing him. The reason why she's suing him, she said, and this is, I guess, in the Zimbabwe court. I don't know what the rules are there. We can't get anyone here in the United States to try one of these lawsuits for the president saying that there was election fraud. Can't get the Supreme Court to look at it. But in Zimbabwe, they're going to go through a court case in which a woman is saying that she's got to sue the guy because they dated for 8 years and he never proposed. She said she wasted her time. That's 8 years of money. There's damages involved in this, of course. There's pain and suffering because he never decided to pop the question and pull the trigger. And after 8 years, she has given up. I can't think of a better thing for you to feel like you made the right decision, not proposing, not getting in a legal agreement with someone, than them suing you after 8 years of dating for not getting married. I can't think of a better way to be like, all right, yeah, no, I made the right decision. This is the only thing that beats this is if you actually caught somebody, in another relationship. If you actually walked in on somebody and they're cheating on you, you'd be like, all right, this makes sense. The relationship's over. Number two, just below that number is getting sued 8 years into a relationship for not getting married. But again, this also just demonstrates the difference in the league. Maybe the Trump administration should take one of these lawsuits to Zimbabwe because at least it would get tried there right after the people's court that is this case between a 26-year-old and a 28-year-old because, he just didn't care enough. And I don't know. I guess she had expectations. I guess they weren't met. A lot of things. I can't wait for the lawsuit to fully play out because I'll probably have more information about that than the things that we care about here in our own country. All right, I got to take a break. This is Craig Collins filling in on the Chad Benson Show. A lot more coming up. We're going to get more serious again because we probably should be more serious after this. I will talk more about some of the reactions to the different lawsuit things that are still being tried. Texas is one of the lawsuits that seems to be a little bit more promising. There was also a Republican member of the House that spoke. He's going to be leaving his position, and he said some very strong things to fellow members of the Republican Party. And then I found out that he's selling a book. So I think that's very interesting. I'll play that audio. I'll get to a lot of other stuff in just a bit. As I said, Craig Collins filling in. This is the Chad Benson Show.
If you're part of the politically exhausted majority, don't fear. Your time to be validated and rejuvenated is here. Wake up. It's the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in for the day. First, CNN, it breaks all kinds of news all the time, man. They're on top of everything, right? CNN, every breaking news story you need and a whole lot you don't, covered all the time. Here is an example when I saw this, I actually thought maybe I was having a dream and I wasn't, actually awake. But here, I just can't believe that this is discussed the way it is. Here's the back and forth. They're talking about Melania Trump and whether or not she's planning on leaving the White House. And the reporter on the scene has breaking news
on what First Lady Melania Trump is planning after she leaves the White House. Does she have ambitions beyond that? What does she have up her sleeve?
So, I think the fact that she's just planning to leave the White House is notable, too. Obviously, publicly, she's been aligned with the president and hasn't said, let's get out of here. But behind the scenes, she's been packing up and figuring out what to take to Mar-a-Lago, which is going to be their home in Florida.
She's packing things. There's things going in boxes. Melania Trump, she's out. She's not in on it. This is the stupidest. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard people talk about on any, oh my God, I can't. One, if you've ever moved, you know that it's a hassle. You know that you get the process started early. You know that maybe you box some things before you're even totally sure when you have to leave. You start that process. Melania sounds like she's being responsible. But two, I can't, how do you with a straight face as a reporter go, she's packing boxes? This is breaking news. Here, let's hear that again.
What does she have up her sleeve?
So, I think the fact that she's just planning to leave the White House is notable, too. Obviously, publicly, she's been aligned with the president and hasn't said,
but
let's get out of here. But behind the scenes, she's been packing up and
packing boxes. I need investigative photos, maybe video. I want to see Melania Trump packing boxes. I want to know how she organizes the things that she moves out in. Does everything go in? Do you keep kitchen items together? Do you keep fragile items together? How does the mixing? This is so dumb. Oh, it's so dumb. Here's another thing, another piece of audio that I thought was interesting, because if you listen to the first 25 seconds of this, and this is just a clip of a Republican House member, Representative Denver Riggleman, and he's not going to be a politician anymore. He's quitting. He's done. He's out. Whatever. I don't know if that's the right term for it, but he's not going to be serving any longer. And he decided to go after other Republicans. I don't know if he's auditioning to become a Democrat. He went after the idea that all these lies, all these deep state things are horrible. And I got 25-ish seconds of that was played before an interview he gave. And then after it, we'll play the introduction from the host that's going to interview him on TV, because he makes mention of something that I think is tremendously more connected to the first portion of this after you hear what's going on and why he's on a tour. But here, first, let's hear from the representative about his feelings on the current Republican Party, one that he serves in. Like I said, not for much longer.
We must work together to inoculate against the social contagion of disinformation, conspiracies, anti-Semitism, dehumanization, racism, deep state cabal nonsense, cults, and those grifters posing as servants of the people. For those who spread disinformation, know that I will not stop in tracking those who push falsehoods onto decent Americans. Radicalization through disinformation has no place in the United States, and in this fight, I will not relent.
The only thing he could have done to really emphasize the point more to me, his point, the one he's making, I'm not agreeing with it, is if he had done the Batman voice. I think if he had done the Christian Bale Batman voice and said something to the akin of I will never surrender, that would have been the only thing that would have taken it to another level. And then here, now after they play the audio, here's the intro during the interview that takes place.
Joining me now is Congressman Denver Riggleman. He is one of the few Republican lawmakers to publicly acknowledge President-elect Joe Biden's victory. He is also the author of Bigfoot, It's Complicated.
Bigfoot, It's Complicated. He's selling a book. This is everybody's move now. So you do the speech, you hop on the CNN or whatever place is one to have you, and then after, you're on your high horse, very high and mighty, fixing the world, Batman style, you then immediately go into...
He is also the author of Bigfoot, It's Complicated, which focuses on the politics of conspiracy theory.
Oh, does it? Oh, is that what it focuses on? The thing he was just talking about when he was, on the floor giving one of his last statements as a member of Congress, and now he's written a book all about how it's terrible? That is so unique. That's so odd. The timing of that is so... Why? Why do so many people in this world, in the world of the Trump administration or anyone else, just go the book road? Honestly, and there's people that at times had said they had valuable information that would have been necessary for the American people. And Bob Woodward is one name that very much comes to mind in some of the things, the audio tapes that he had. And yet none of it comes out. None of it is ever reported. It's as hidden as the Hunter Biden story until all of a sudden the book's out. And then you're trying to make I'm mad I even played the audio of this guy. But as I was seeing it making the rounds on social media, because everyone is so proud everyone that obviously disagrees with everybody on the right, everybody on the left that thinks that this person, Denver Riggleman, is the next coming of someone wonderful. Then he goes into the fact that he's selling a book. To me, it's just so disingenuous. It's so crazy to see that world that we're in. Because, yes, is he winning points with those on the left with the things that he's saying? I'm sure he is. But he's doing it for cash. He's doing it for the sweet, sweet dollar. He's not doing it because he believes in the cause like you do. Sorry to burst that bubble, but that is absolutely what's going on here. I also saw another story in the news that I liked quite a bit because, I don't know, I guess we're just throwing people under the bus for no reason, but in a silly way. A new survey asked who's the worst gift giver in your family with Christmas coming up. What individual in the family does a terrible job of knowing what you want? And the number one answer, grandma, and number 3 answered grandpa. And with everything else going on in the world, like we didn't need this story. You didn't need to out people for being bad at giving you Christmas gifts, but grandma's the worst, I guess, according to a survey. I don't think that's true, by the way. My grandmother gives me lovely gifts. They're always related to Catholicism. I'm a Catholic. She's a Catholic. That's the thing. And usually I get something that's somehow tied to faith, but they're very lovely, very nice things. A little repetitive, but nice. Young kids, little children do second worst, by the way. They're the one in the middle. So it's grandma, young children, grandpa. This is just being mean, this survey. I mean, honestly, I don't think I've ever teased a child for giving me a gift. Like this survey is all about how, I don't know, macaroni, art piece is just not all that valuable to you. Worst gift givers? Why don't we say something nicer? I'm usually not one to censor, but in this case, I think we should. Then number 4 on the list is aunts and uncles. Neighbors is number 5. Adult children 6. Friends is 7. Your dad, very far down the list, 8th worst in the gift-giving community. Mom is number 9, and a partner or spouse gives you the best present. That would be number 10, rounding out the list. This just seems like someone was mad. Whoever did this survey was upset with a specific member of their own family, and they wanted to go after them. That's the only reason you do something like this and point out all the people at the top of this list and young children, by the way, the fact that they're even mentioned at all. I guess 18% of people felt that grandma gave a bad gift and 17% felt that a young child or a grandfather. Everyone in this survey needs to check themselves. Every person who participated, every person who named people, they all need to take a quick break. Christmas is for a lot of things. I'll take a break right here. Craig Collins filling in on the Chad Benson Show. This is just wrong.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins. For just a second, I want to take a moment and talk to everybody in the Senate, everybody in politics. This is not for the regular audience. This is anyone in the world of politicians who are trying to pass a relief bill, a stimulus package, some kind of framework for something. There was a $908 billion package that was created, the framework of an idea, and it was supposed to be people from the left and the right coming together, making a thing work. It doesn't sound like it's going to work out. Pass something. This is my message to all of you. Pass something. Make something happen. Don't let the government shut down. Don't let that happen. Put something on paper that you know the president's willing to sign. That's a big hurdle there. But everybody come together. Let's have some sort of, I don't know. What we need to do is like a team building exercise, the way that you do it at workplaces. And I know they're not fun. They're not a good time, but we do. We have to send everybody to a team building exercise. I know it's the time of coronavirus. I know that there's a lot of things. Social distancing is going to be important, but you got to play a quirky game. You got to play 2 truths and a lie with a bunch of Republicans. That would be a very fun game to have the politicians all play that game and have the public maybe guess on it. Get to know each other better. have Mitch hang out with Nancy, have a good time, have a nice chat, and then everybody get something passed of some kind. That's all this week. There was discussions about how a bipartisan bill was going to be passed. Everything was looking great. And then toward the tail end of the week, that all fell apart because, one, a lot of people on the left are trying to get these state bailouts, as much money as possible, just handed to the states themselves, handed to politicians that may or may not do good things with them and not necessarily care as much about businesses and or, everyday Americans. That's part of the goal. That's the only portion that Mitch decided didn't make sense to him. He wanted that part removed. So right now on the table, if you do digest it, there are ways in which Republicans and Democrats can come together and bail out everybody else, bail out businesses, bail out human beings. And I know that bailout's a word that a lot of people don't like, but the unemployment numbers are going up. There's a way to get a lot of this sort of thing passed. You just got to give up on some of the state funding, and that does not seem to be the case as far as people on the left are concerned. But I don't care. I don't want to digest it anymore. I don't want to break down all the different issues. I just want to talk directly to all the politicians anywhere in the country that listen to this and beg you, pass something. Do something of some kind in the near future. I beg you. I beg you. I beg you. All right, getting on to other news. The FDA has taken an additional step forward in proceeding to hopefully potentially authorize the COVID vaccine. Yesterday, the panel decided to recommend, the FDA panel decided to recommend that the agency grant emergency use access for the Pfizer BioNTech coronavirus vaccine. The additional steps taken this morning seem to continue to demonstrate that is going to happen. That is a very exciting, obviously, development for a lot of us. And yet for some, one Anthony Fauci, one Dr. Fauci, not necessarily as exciting as everyone else feels it is because, well, Dr. Fauci feels that, it's not really the quick fix or the end all be all that so many, it's been months. Probably a whole year now that we've talked about how we need a vaccine, and stuff can start to get back to normal. Q Fauci doing an interview where he says, not so fast, everybody.
Unless you get the overwhelming majority of the country vaccinated and protected and get that umbrella of what we call herd immunity, there's still a lot of virus out there. So just because you're protected, so-called protected by the vaccine, you need to remember that you could be prevented from getting clinical disease and still have the virus that is in your nasopharynx because you could get infected. We're not sure at this point that the vaccine protects you against getting infected.
That's not these are not great sentences to be thrown out there for the world when we're trying to get everyone, according to your first point, to take this vaccine, to just throw out that we're not really sure. We think that it works pretty well. He's actually going to say how it works to limit the seriousness of illness quite well. But some of the other portions of that, not so sure about.
We know for sure it's very, very good, 95% in protecting you against clinically recognizable disease and almost 100% in protecting you for severe disease.
Why not just say that? That's my opinion. Why not just go that road? We have great news the other day and today about how the FDA is taking steps forward in getting the vaccine out, and it's going to start being given to people, and everyone that believes in the vaccine tells you that you need to take it, and, they're trying to convince you every way they can to go ahead and sign up for it. And then there's Dr. Fauci, who, again, I don't know that he's as much of a political figure as people say he is, but that was about as much cold water as you can possibly throw on that story, and I kind of wish it didn't happen. In other news, of course, the big thing being discussed is the Hunter Biden investigation that's back on the radar of many, many people, and it's very interesting to hear how maybe this investigation might have been going on for quite some time, but you just didn't hear about it, I don't know, back in October, back when it might have been relevant to a lot of people. Here is Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton talking a little bit about this.
There's allegations of securities fraud and money laundering related to Hunter Biden's Chinese businesses, a crooked hospital deal with Jim Biden, Joe Biden's brother, out in western Pennsylvania. These investigations span multiple jurisdictions. And if Joe Biden becomes president, then all of those prosecutors are in line to be fired next month.
That is a great point. He did continue by talking about how this is kind of old hat for the Biden family.
The Biden family has been trading on Joe Biden's public office for 50 years. Valerie Biden Owens, his sister, and Jim Biden, his brother, and Hunter Biden, his son. Do we really think that will change if Joe Biden becomes president, the highest office in the land? If they did it when he was vice president and he was senator, of course it's going to happen when he has even more power.
I don't know how I argue with any of that. I don't know. I know that some people are going to challenge the legitimacy of these stories. However, the investigations having gone on for the last couple of years demonstrates that there is actual legitimate concern, I think, about some of the potential things that are broken. My favorite part, though, actually comes a little bit later when Tom is talking about how unbelievable it is to assume that Joe Biden would know none of these things. Big guy had no information whatsoever. It is really difficult when they're doing these long flights to China and all these other interactions, all these other, and it's, by the way, it's also his son. It's his son who's maybe you don't talk to your son at all about like any business dealings of any kind that he has going on?
Look, we know Joe Biden has misrepresented his family's business dealings in the past. Hunter Biden flew all over the world with them. Joe Biden said they never talked about their business. Hunter Biden said they did. Emails from his laptop show they did as well. And really, on 2 14-hour flights to and from China, do we really think Joe Biden never once said to Hunter Biden, so what are you doing in China, son?
I think that's so expertly said. Long flights. We're going to China together. The son's like, hey, can I hop a ride? Can I get there, Pop? And you don't ask him one time, well, why are you going? You just assume he's probably going there for the culture. He's probably just going to hang out. It has nothing to do with the fact that he's got more money all of a sudden and that some of the money is supposed to potentially go to big guy. The portion of this story that might not be talked about as much, but one that certainly people in my circle are discussing, is whether or not the Biden campaign knew this was all going to fall apart. They knew that all this was coming, that at some point all these investigations would make the guy step down. Because, and I don't know, I know that that's a couple steps further than where we're at right now, but it sounds like there's legitimate problems and a lot of very messy things yet to be discovered as far as this news story that wasn't a news story 2 months ago, but is apparently a news story now that the presidency is all but guaranteed, according to many an expert. Not everybody, but many experts say that. Is this all just a ploy? Was Joe Biden never truly supposed to be the president? Is this political manufacturing things in a way that's just so confusing, so odd? I have several people I know, none of them experts, and I want to be fair about that believe this to be the case. But as this story continues to unravel, as we find more and more information about it, I just become more and more amazed that, and we all knew it was a story. You knew a couple months ago that this had a lot more legitimacy than anyone was talking about. They ripped apart the business owner, the guy who found the laptop in the first place. The media ripped this person a new one, and it made absolutely no sense to rip apart a guy that had a laptop he was trying to give to the FBI. This is a very odd way to drop a guy out of business. I think his whole company went out of business because he was some political operative who was just a blind human being that wanted to give a laptop that had sensitive information on it to the government. That's all it took to be unpersoned in this year. And now a couple months later, no one ever apologizes. None of that information is ever like, we're sorry, you guys got it right, we got it wrong. Nope, it's nothing to see here. Let's move on until we absolutely have to. And maybe for reasons, that are not being discussed in the public eye. I saw this story, and then I'll take a break. This year, a special channel has popped up on some of the social media places, some of the platforms that you can watch, online streaming television. And it's not the typical Yule log, the fireplace that a lot of people will put on the television and just have in the corner. This is the millennial way to have a fire while you're celebrating the holiday, which apparently we're also not supposed to really do in a group. But this year, you can actually just put on a dumpster fire on your television because 2020 has been tough and let that play. Just I can't imagine how that would feel at a party, because you don't really want your head beaten in with all the different things that have been tough this year. And yet, if I was at a holiday party with a dumpster fire on the television, I'd be like, okay, all right, we're not going to get over this. This is going to be a huge topic of conversation. An ad agency created it. Of course they did. Out of Canada. It is an hour-long recording of people throwing 2020-related items into a fire in a dumpster and enjoying, I guess, their ability to burn 2020 things and move on to the next year. So if you need it, if that's your kind of jam, I will go ahead with the dumpster fire. After this break, I want to play some audio for you of a teacher that made what I think is an expert joke. This teacher made sure these students were paying attention by doing something at the beginning of her lesson that I think definitely deserves and has gone viral. I will also talk about David Hasselhoff. He's got some new music out there. So if 2020 wasn't good enough for you or wasn't, challenging enough, new metal music from David Hasselhoff is out there in the market. All that coming up in a bit. Craig Collins filling in on The Chad Benson Show.
Don't let the Washington Beltway strangle you. This is where the exhausted majority comes to refuel, realign, and reevaluate. This is Chad Benson.
This is Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins, filling in. A teacher wanted to make sure that her students were paying attention during their online learning, and I'm not going to ruin it for you. I'll just play it for you. Let's see if you spot how this teacher successfully got the kids engaged early on in the lesson.
Most of us are here, so if you want to pull out your Journeys book.
What was that? What was that? I think she farted.
They're going to keep laughing. The kids are going to really enjoy this. That was not a real fart, by the way. The teacher used some sort of noise-making device. I know, very crazy, to do a fake fart, and all the kids engaged immediately. I mean, this is very creative. This is why teachers are great. This is why teachers do great things, and honestly, they probably deserve to have the kids back in the classrooms so you don't have to resort to toilet humor to get them paying attention. I love how much they're laughing, though.
I don't know who that was.
It was huge.
I don't know who it was. I think maybe the dog. It's killing me. This teacher could do stand-up comedy for grade school tomorrow. Just got to do the fart noise. Here, let's hear the beginning one more time.
Most of us are here, so if you want to pull out your Journeys book.
I mean, that is well done. In other news, other silly audio news, David Hasselhoff has a new song out. I guess a couple months ago, the Hoff decided to tease a new metal album that he was working on. The first song has now officially been released. Taylor Swift put out a new CD last night. Some people don't care. Some people care more about the David Hasselhoff joint. Through the Night is the name of the song. Here's a little bit of this audio. He recorded it with an Australian duo, Q-Stack. So it's the Hoff and Q-Stack together at last. Finally, the musical reunion we all wanted to see. Become the flame that burns in me. That's some of the lyrics. I get a lot of people that are like, Craig, you can stop. You can actually, it's becoming a bop, guys. And I know the kids don't call it a bop anymore. At the tail end of this song, it's kicking it from, I don't know about you, but I'm starting to feel the Hoff. Oh, man, I got to be honest. If we get more of that from David Hasselhoff, that's a nice way to put a smile on your faces at the tail end of a difficult year. A lot more heavy metal music from Hasselhoff. I am always surprised that he's actually kind of good at that because, like, the premise of this, I read the headline and I think to myself, well, this is very silly. This is very, I don't know why the guy from Baywatch is still trying to make a music career. And then you hear the guy sing and perform all different kinds. And come on, somebody out there, be honest with me. Go ahead and tweet at Chad Benson and say whether or not you're going to be buying the David Hasselhoff metal album. And he will be very confused when he gets back on Monday because I think you're going to do it. Also, I guess in nostalgia news, the world of nostalgia, which is maybe, I guess, what this segment is all of a sudden. Sweden does a lot of things very different than us. You've heard about that as far as coronavirus and other things are concerned. Also, the McDonald's in Sweden is taking a unique approach to the tail end of the year. They're opening up a barbershop. They're calling it the Golden M Barbershop. It's in Stockholm, and it's only going to cut one hairstyle, the 90s hairstyle that's kind of just makes an M on your head. It's the part in the middle with the two sides of the face where the bangs kind of droop down. A lot of, a heartthrob, young guys had this look. Leonardo DiCaprio, David Beckham. A lot of guys in the 90s were rocking this move, and the Golden M Barbershop in Stockholm will cut just this hairstyle. Mostly for guys, but ladies can go too. We wanted the M Barbershop not only to guard our golden M, but also to claim it once and for all. The salon is a celebration dedicated to our beloved ambassadors, a helping hand to guide them on how to keep their M's in perfect trim, even when we can't move around as freely as we usually can. That is according to the company that is opening this barbershop. See, a lot of places are getting closed down, and in Sweden, they're opening up a ridiculous place where you probably don't want a haircut, but maybe, just maybe, if you're jamming out to a little bit of the Hoff, you know, you might also want to be rocking the M haircut. Let's get the Hoff back in here. You know you're going to be singing this to yourself a little later. The flame that burns in me, you know you're going to do it. It's not my fault. It's catchy. It's going to get stuck in your head. That's not on me. That's on David Hasselhoff. That is honestly way, way better than I thought that was going to be. All right, I got to take a break in a bit. After the break, I want to tell you a lot more about some of the maybe more serious things going on in the world, but also some sillier things, because there is a company, an airline, that wants to figure out a good way to give out snacks to end the year, and it's not the way you think. They have a novel approach to making sure that anyone who misses the airline snack can still achieve that very lovely experience. There's a lot of other stories out there in the news that I'll cover too. A drug company that mixed up two very different medications. All that coming up in a bit. Greg Collins filling in on the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins. I am not Chad. For anyone that wants to get upset with what I say on the show on social media, it is Craig today. Chad is back on Monday. Mask wearing may result in something that's not as valuable as we all would hope for it to be. Obviously, a lot of benefits, according to many, many people, as far as masks are concerned. But apparently it causes less social distancing. Out of a internet experiment, 457 volunteers participated in what was, I guess, a virtual study of their interactions while wearing a mask. And people were much more likely, about 15% more likely, to break the 6-foot social distancing suggestion if everyone around them was all masked up. I don't know what the professionals say as far as whether or not that matters, but each virtual character was presented twice. A lot of the different studies went through the process of just what you do in those worlds, and they saw that, hey, if we're all rocking masks, we might be a little bit closer together. So there's that news. If you're having an argument this holiday season about whether or not to wear a mask and you're on a side that I'm not on, and you want to say why not, I guess there's one thing in your corner that maybe the 6 feet gets a lot harder, although 11, 12, whatever it's supposed to be, according to other people, that number changes all the time too. After the coronavirus vaccination was administered to many people in Russia, after it became more widespread, a guideline came out that had surprised a lot of people. According to a news agency there, the TASS, people were being instructed to leave alcohol alone after getting the first of the 2 vaccinations, and that was for a time limit of about 2 months. They were telling people to not drink alcohol in excess for 2 months while waiting for the vaccine, the second portion of the vaccine, or I guess just waiting to see if it was working. That is a surreal amount of time and another definite negative. I don't think that exists within the vaccines we have here in our country, but they were being warned that you needed to curb that kind of intake because it might have a detrimental effect on the success of a vaccine that at the time I don't think was very well studied, according to a lot of the experts here. But according to the people there in Russia, they were okay with it. I don't know how we would handle that. If in the United States, and we've already had Fauci talk about some of the things that may or may not be valuable as far as the vaccine is concerned, and I know there's a lot of other doctors out there airing all kinds of caution now, which is very odd. You beg for a vaccine, and then the minute we have one, you start to say how it's not really what we all were saying it was when we were begging for it. But if we had a requirement like this, how much more likely is it that you'd say no to getting the vaccine? There's a lot of different things out there right now as far as the efficacy of it, the amount of ability it will have to actually bring us back to the functioning in a normal society kind of way. And then potentially, if it's anything like the one in Russia, you may have to swear off things like liquor at a time when a whole lot of people might have turned to that, sadly, a little bit more than in the past, because, well, if you're at home and you're not going out anywhere, you might as well. That's just my opinion. You do you. I saw this. EasyJet would like to offer you the snacks and the cabin crew experience that they're not able to give out on their flights. And so they came up with a novel idea. They're willing to deliver this to your front door. The European airline has partnered with a food delivery service, Deliveroo, which is very interesting. They will give you the cabin items that you're used to having. See, this is not okay. I have to be honest. If you're going to order things to be delivered to your house, food items, and you go the road of, and thank God it's not here in the States, of just the items that you get from the cabin in an airplane. And this, I guess it goes as far as they'll even serve a cocktail the way you're used to having it served while on a flight. Like, the reason that those snacks exist the way that they're served to us is because they don't have other options. There is no stove. There is no chef sitting there on the flight with you, because I think some bad things would happen if we started going down that road, making you an actual meal. That's why you get the crackers and the cookies and all the things that you get on the flight. I don't miss those complimentary items so much that I want to order them delivered to my house. It's just not, it doesn't make any sense. It's not okay. As I keep saying, I don't want to judge. I don't want to tell you how to live your life, but no one should order this. I hope it's not popular. I say that, and then I know that people bought tickets for airlines that didn't take off, the flights that just sat on the ground and everybody got to sit in the plane for a little while, flights that just did loops around an area and landed again so that people could have these experiences. I don't think the delivery guy is going to give you the entire experience of being on a plane, though. I think the guy at Deliveroo is probably very confused as to why he's dropping these items off. It is in celebration, I should say, of the 25th anniversary of the airline, so there is a value there, and they say that they've enhanced the items a bit, but still, I don't think anyone, I mean, how disappointed would you be if you're sitting there with family members, or I guess whoever you're allowed to be there with, and you find out that someone's ordered food, like, I put in an order, we'll be fine, and then all you get are the cabin items you get on a flight for EasyJet. I think that would be a big disappointment, and we're not ready for more of those. This story, I'm not really sure if this is a disappointment. There is some inherent danger here, so I should say that first, that anytime you mix up any kind of medications, there's always going to be risk involved, and certainly while there was no one adversely affected as far as we know, a company, AV Care, accidentally sent different medications than expected to two groups of people. They were supposed to send an anti-anxiety medication, and instead they had packed that bottle with erectile dysfunction medicine. And then for the group that was supposed to get the erectile dysfunction medicine, they sent the antidepressant. They had to recall all those items. And again, as they stated, no news of any negative side effects, so everyone's okay. They did mention some of the adverse side effects of taking one of these. If it's not the prescribed medicine for you, not the expected thing, there's some heart issues that could come into play. There's some other things that potentially health risks, as far as getting drowsy when you don't expect to get drowsy, having blood pressure change in ways you don't expect it to change, and sometimes maybe even impacting those who have pre-existing conditions. But again, no word on negative side effects and or positive ones. I don't know that they don't exist, but anyone that did get the wrong medicine and did take it, we have no word on whether or not things went better for them than they expected them to go. But those two medications were mixed up. I don't know how that happens. I don't know how the company, apologizes better for that than just recalling the items and getting you the right medicine. But out of all the things to mix up, those two items, to me, there's a lot more to that story, I guess, that we're not going to hear about. In this vein, and I guess now I can take a quick second and stop and say that this is the most adult portion of the show. So if you got the kids in the car with you, if you're listening in an environment that's not great, maybe do the earmuffs for a second. And I'm going to try to keep this as clean as I can. But there is a take out there on social media that's gone viral. This is a take on Twitter. I'm not even going to give credit to the person who put it out there because it's silly to do it. But someone is afraid that all the different ramifications, all the different fallout of this year is going to push women to behave differently than they behaved in the past. This is essentially the take. There's a report from a few different universities. This is actually in the UK. But I think a lot of places have reported this. Women were more likely to lose their job than men. It's not necessarily fair. It's just a fact of the world we're in. It said that the researchers of a recent study found that 7% of women wound up finding that their job had been made redundant during a lockdown, while just 4% of men experienced the same thing. Women were more likely to be laid off, even in environments where, there were need for certain jobs. They were still more likely than men to be laid off. And so this take, and I guess this is also tied to a dating website of some kind, wonders if women will wind up being a little bit more promiscuous, is what they say, but a little bit more willing to, I guess, embrace the world of romance to solve problems as opposed to finding a job. This is an inherently sexist take. I will admit that to start. But I just can't believe that it's out there, that it's in the world and that it's gone viral, that someone wondered if the world in which we're living right now might have the adverse side effect of women being less choosy, let's say it that way, more likely to go a certain road. I doubt that that's going to be a problem. I wonder if we just get overly worried about way too many things. And then as I'm continuing to look around for other stories in the news, I see this headline. This is out of TMZ, of course. In underground, I'm going to replace that word, adult party has sprung up in places like Vegas. This is due to COVID, and the deep secret network has been exposed by TMZ. I guess people in certain professions in places like Las Vegas were finding it difficult to get the same amount of customers that they had gotten in the past. And obviously with certain health issues and other things going on, probably wasn't really, as allowed or as legal as it used to be. So these speakeasy-esque events have popped up in which there's very hush-hush invites for a select group of people who all get together and throw a bigger party with several individuals. And I'm going to continue to call that an adult party. This is an exposed story. It's out there. That's a weird word to choose. It's out there in the news. And apparently there's a lot of danger. There's a lot of warnings behind it. Don't do this. Don't attend one of these if you happen to be around. But it is yet another reference of maybe, I guess, in some regard, and I don't think that these two are connected enough, that story I just said, the person on social media wondering if we're going to be in a less judgmental world in some ways. Apparently this story says, at least for some, that answer would be yes. But again, I'm not seeing that as a potential problem in all this. And I wonder if the takes are just getting way too hot. And actually, okay, I'm going to take a break because this segment got way too hot. Earmuffs can come off. We'll be back in a second. This is Craig Collins filling in, hopefully, beyond today for the Chad Benson Show. He is back on Monday. I'll talk to you in a bit.
No fake outrage here, just the real thing. The Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. My name is Craig Collins filling in. This story went viral earlier in the week, and I didn't want to talk about it because I just think it's so dumb. It's so stupid. So there's a 6-year-old kid. He's at a mall talking to a Santa, which, by the way, to get that done in 2020 is harder than it should be. He's in Illinois, and he goes ahead and asks for like his toy of choice. And it's been pointed out several times that the mall Santa, and I'm not trying to break any news to anyone, there's a lot of helpers involved in the whole process here. He's not actually getting any gifts. He's not the real Santa, most likely. If there is a real Santa that's involved in the process, these guys are shooting these messages up the ladder. They're not the ones executing the final order. But so the kid asked for a Nerf gun, a toy gun. And I don't know how intimidated you have to be with a Nerf gun to reject such an offer. I've played with Nerf guns with my nephews several times. I've even had accidental experiences where I did things like shot a kid in an eyeball that I didn't intend to hit him in, and he survived. He's okay, not horribly hurt at all. I think there's probably a very small likelihood that anyone ever gets horribly injured. I'm sure there's a story. I'm sure someone can find one, but I don't want one. So anyway, the kid asked for the gun, and the Santa says no. And here's the actual quote from the story. He said, no guns. Nope, not even a Nerf gun. Nope. If your dad wants to get it for you, that's fine, but I can't bring it to you. What else would you like? There's a lot of other toys. There's Legos, bicycles, cars, trucks. What do you think? What do you think? Santa had to ask twice because 6-year-old kid, Michael, just broke down. How hard would that be? The year that we've all had, and you kind of forget how challenging it is even on kids that aren't going to school or not, getting their lives to be the same as they always are. Mike gets really excited, wake him up in the morning, 6 years old. He's going to see Santa. He's like, yes, at least that part of life is the same. I love when I go see Santa. He drops his big request on Santa Claus, and it's not something uncomfortable. I think a lot of kids, CNN did a deep dive into this, or asking for, much more serious things in a year that's been serious. He just wanted a Nerf gun, and this mall Santa's like, not going to happen. I mean, fired. That guy should immediately be fired. The kid wept. The parents had to come in and deal with the overreaction and say that they are okay with Nerf guns, Santa. It is all right. And then, as I said, after a Facebook video went viral on the internet, hopefully this guy got canned. And I don't usually wish for many people to lose their jobs, but this mall Santa, this specific one in Illinois, he deserves to spend the rest of the year contemplating why that was a bad move to say no to a 6-year-old asking for a toy gun. Oh, my gosh. In other news, a company has gone viral out of Indiana for their annual light show. The reason in which they went viral, though, is not because the light show is just better than anybody else's. It's because of the equipment they used to put on the show. Their Service Sanitation in Gary, Indiana, and it is a portable potty show. They call it the Jingle Johns, a lighted loo experience. They did a wonderful rendition, all 32 toilets, of Hallelujah. I could play some of the audio for you, but it does just sound like canned audio. The visual is better, so maybe I'll put it up on my social media page. And this is something I guess they've done year in and year out. People commenting on the post said that it was wonderful, great job. My only question as I read through this story, if you make all these different porta potties capable of lighting up and singing songs and doing all that stuff, do you forget when you're putting them back into the wild, putting them back into the service world, that some of them are equipped that way? And do you shock somebody? Is there somebody that goes to take, a thing, they go to have themselves a little bit of me time, and they wind up having a rendition of Hallelujah played while everything's lighting up from under them? Because I would be most amused by that, and I do think it's possible that it could be out there, it could happen. So I just want to know. Maybe we'll get someone and interview them. The interview that you don't need in 2020 is what I'll call it, and I'll talk to the company about if they've ever let one of those loose. I also saw this story. Frito-Lay is letting you come up with your dream snack pack. You can mix any of their products together. It's the favorite potato chip experience that they're saying is something that someone can win. It's on snacks.com. Shoppers can pick from 20 different bags of items, mix them together, and create all new kinds of things. And the winning item will be put on the market in the coming year. This reminds me of a radio guy I used to work with who claimed that cereal was great if you mix them all together. The only way he liked to eat it is if you had every single item in the same bowl. This does feel like you're going a bit too far to get the same joy maybe you used to get from just one potato chip. But hey, fine. Go ahead. Go nuts. There's 8 kinds of Cheetos, 8 different varieties of Doritos. There's Ruffles. There's all kinds of things, popcorn and Funyuns. And you do you. Mix whatever you want together. I wanted to end the show on this, though. I have some feel-good audio here. It's a man that was left a gift from his late father. The guy passed away a few years ago. So this is not related to the current issues we're dealing with now. The dad died of cancer 6 years ago, but he gave a gift to his daughter to give to his son, Matt, on his 21st birthday. Here's a little of that audio. Essentially, the dad gave a gift of a $10 bill to his son, Matt, who'd be turning 21 this year because he wanted to buy him his first drink.
I mean, it's the best present I could ask for.
I know the hardest thing for my dad was knowing the things that he was going to miss out on. My little brother was his entire world. We put it in an envelope that night, taped it up and put it in a safe and kept it in her closet for the last almost 6 years now.
It felt like he was with me. It's kind of crazy. I never expected it to blow up like this. $10 turned into 240 beers from Budweiser, and now it could turn into however much money in donation.
That's right. The story went viral. Budweiser got involved because Bud Light was his dad's favorite beer, so that's what he bought with the $10. Bud Light sent him 30 cases of beer on their own, and now people are actually donating to a Venmo campaign to just give the guy money to buy him additional drinks for his 21st birthday in honor of his dad. And Matt has decided to tell everyone that's interested in donating this money to him to actually give it to a cancer institute, the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. Donate the money there to help people fight that horrible disease. What a wonderful, lovely, feel-good story. A great way for me to end the show because, honestly, this shows how humanity is not all lost. Everything's not lost. The dad had a really lovely idea to still get his son his first beer on his 21st birthday. We share the story about that. It goes viral. The company gets involved. A bunch of other people get involved. Everyone just wants to help and make this year as I guess, easy to deal with as possible in a year that's obviously a very big struggle. And so this right here, if you ever need that moment, that story that redeems humanity for you, for me, it's this one. It's a very sad story, certainly, but a very uplifting story in the fact that people can understand and can come together and still do great things. And if you do, if you are touched by this story, you can go ahead and find it online and donate to the wonderful causes Matt has brought more awareness to. Craig Collins filling in on The Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.